All right. Hello, everyone. My name is S.Y. Lim, and I'm the Director of Programming at Mana Contemporary Chicago. Mana Contemporary, in collaboration with Monira Foundation, we will be presenting artist Sonja Thomsen today. Sonja Thomsen is an American artist and organizer manifesting mass and co-authoring meaning. Her multifaceted practice choreographs light, an image, object, and architecture. Lines of inquiry into scientific epistemologies and feminist politics are shaped by her profound personal experiences and are articulated in an object-based practice which encompasses books, installations, mobiles, and images. She's a mother working in abstraction, trained in the sciences, whose practice creates space for radical wonder. Thompson's publication, You Will Find It Where It Is, a Reader, was published by Poor Farm Press in 2020. She's currently teaches at the School of the Art Institute of Chicago. Thompson's work resides in the collection of the Art Institute of Chicago, Benica Rare Book at Yale University, DePaul University Art Museum, Joan Flash Artist Book Collection, and Flexman Library at the School of the Art Institute of Chicago, Museum of Contemporary Photography, Chicago, Milwaukee Art Museum, and the public collection that houses these books are the Cleveland Museum of Art Engels Library, Fred and Laura Ruth Bidwell Foundation, Joan Flash Artist Book Collection at SAIC Flexman Library, Milwaukee Art Museum Library, Milwaukee Public Library, Museum of Contemporary Photography, Columbia College, Chicago, Rhode Island School of Design Fleet Library, Robert Haas Family Arts Library at Yale University Library, Texas State University Library, Walker Art Center Library, and a Museum of Fine Arts Houston Library. Thank you for joining us, and I'll hand over the mic to Sonja.
Thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. And I want to thank the Mana Contemporary and the Monira Foundation for hosting me and making space for artists working in books. And, this book has been out, it was delayed through COVID, and it's been out for about a year. It's a small edition of 300, and it's almost sold out. And I've done a few talks around the book, but I was really inspired to try to actually literally open the book for you and help you experience or share an experience of the book as I talk a little bit about the way it exists in my practice, but also, making room for conversation and discussion or questions after. But it's so weird to talk about a book and then not experience it. And the materiality of this object is really important to me. So I wanted to just make a little bit of time to do a fragmented reading with you. So the book is designed as this kind of sculptural entity. And I'm hand binding everything here in the studio. Conveyor press helped print the interior. And like SY said, Christina Levy was my editor, and Alana Schlenker out of Philly helped design the cover. I just wanted to start with this quote that's on the back of the cover. It's Nobel laureate Frank Wilczek. He won the prize in physics. You as a human are nothing but particles and light. And you as a human are thinking and feeling. Two different worlds, hard to understand in simultaneity. So this book is a space for me to hold a lot of questions. It's titled A Reader because it exists as an invitation for you, the audience, but also it functions very practically for me in my practice. Within the book, I'm orbiting the legacy of Margaret Fuller, Isaac Newton, Wolfgang Goethe, Maria Nordman, Lucia Moholy, Maria Agnesi, Jana Levin, and myself and you hopefully intersect in the midst of it. So I'm just going to do a quick reading. I'll kind of walk you through some pages, and then maybe you have some questions or want me to revisit a section. There's 3 different voices in the book, and Christina helped me edit and organize the way those voices work. And so one are these kind of center pieces around primarily the matriarchs that I'm orbiting. And then there's also this more personal text that exists in my note-taking, but also in a smaller font throughout the book. So I'm going to start with that personal voice. The the special genius of woman, I believe, to be electrical in movement, intuitive in function, and spiritual in tendency. That's from Margaret Fuller's Woman in the 19th Century. What is it that we grasp when we are trying to recall something? Neurons fire, making new connections, new pathways, new synapses. Memory doesn't feel like electricity. Where do memories live in our bodies? The emulsion has been peeled where she sits in the frame. The print is large enough that my body nests within her shoulders. From 1990 to 2003, an international team of researchers worked to sequence all of the genes of Homo sapiens. By 2001, after more than a decade of work, the Human Genome Project mapped 90% of the human genome. How is knowing experienced? I should sing this, but 3 is a magic number. A rainbow occurs within the triangulation at the juncture of energy, matter, and observer in space and time. Photography has been underestimated by some and overestimated by others. Real artists will not worry about it. They will merely be encouraged to move forward to fields beyond, fields they should have been exploiting long ago anyway. That's Lucia Moholy from her book, 100 Years of Photography. How is spaciousness sensed? Understanding scale has the power to make us better citizens. I agree with Charles and Ray Eames. Oh, sorry. In 2003, scientists found that a millimeter of seawater, in a genetic sense, has more complexity than the human genome. In 3 years, research moved from sequencing the singular organism of the human to the DNA for an entire ecosystem. And this flow of light, which could produce a place, this flow of air, which could produce a sound, all of it remaining unpredictable, this incident could have a moment of hesitation in the case that at least 2 people are there. It's Maria Nordman from Poema Notes speaking about her installation. In 2018, scientists decoded the genome of the axolotl, a regenerative Mexican amphibian. It has 32 billion base pairs, 10 times the size of our human genome, the largest ever sequence to date. She is cavern and mountain, an abstract landscape. She reflects and absorbs. She is a light modulator. She is a potential photograph. She is a mirror without a memory. My matriarchs, I'd like to thank them for their grit and their inspiration. My grandmother, Mary Lou Thompson, is 90 and she's still alive today. Ruth Swanson, we lost right before COVID, and my mother, Grace Thompson. And now we begin again. I am so grateful for these women who have empowered my voice and taught me so much in this process of publication. Christina Levy, my editor and sage, thank you for your sisterhood and vision. Alana Schlenker, who brought the touch to make this object glow. And Michelle Grabner, who offered to share her imprint from our Wisconsin North Woods. I'll just read one more quote in the back. This is from Helene Sixis. Women must put herself into the text as into the world and into history by her own movement. Gen 11 listens to black holes. The LIGO Observatory, picked up the gravitational waves on September 14th, 2015. They came from two distant black holes merging 1.3 billion years ago. With only 4.9% of the observable universe visible, what new ways of perceiving will emerge? Maria Nordman. Interperception, Nordman's construction. Quote, nonetheless, these 600 million light years of travel are part of the receptor capacity of our bodies, and we are not limited in our perceptions. Although the term has carried a meaning of individual perception, it is hereby proposed that in fact, what occurs is interperception. What new vocabularies do we need today? Sorry, I missed the page. The wavelength of visible light is somewhat smaller than living cells. From our own vision and from the green of plants, we know how much the interaction of cells with visible light means for life on Earth. The wavelength scale is drawn in 4, with color marked along the scale. Bright light at each wavelength will simulate the color sensation marked. Though seen, the color does not always imply the physical presence of light with that wavelength. Color perception is much more complicated than a simple wavelength scale. In theory of colors, Goethe's primary concern was the perception of phenomena. He was invested in the importance of the psychological aspect of color, rather than the physical aspects. He critiqued Newton's spectral description of color. For Goethe, color manifested at the edges. Lucia Moholy. In 1972, Lucia published a paper, Moholy Marginal Notes, Documentary Absurdities, where she, quote, puts right whatever errors have crept in by retelling the story of her literary and visual contributions to the collaborations between she and Laszlo Moholy. Listen to Lucia. How are we authoring our histories? At the center of the eye exists the fovea centralis. Here, the density of cones is the place of sharpest vision and the location of most color perception. Before implementing the prism, Newton attempted to stick a knife at the back of his eye to manifest the image of the rainbow. Sorry. Implication, see material implication. Maria Agnesi was an 18th century mathematician, linguist, and philosopher. The Witch of Agnesi is a curve studied in her 1748 book. I cannot speak Italian, I'm sorry. The first surviving mathematical work written by a woman. It's his first calculus book. Her curve was translated from curve of Agnesi to witch. Why witch? The word witch derives from a mistranslation of the term visiera, meaning versed sine curve, to aviciera, meaning witch or wife of the devil. In 1801, it was mistranslated by John Colson. Are we amused? Who is translating? Margaret Fuller. In 1845, Woman in the 19th Century, her foundational treatise of the women's emancipation movement was published. The book also inspired intellectual conversation, this time about divine love and equality of all people. Our synergy within a conversation is boundless. Sorry. Look for it and you'll find it where it is, just off the center from where you're staring. There are faint stars in the night sky. You can see only if you look to the side of where they shine. They burn too weakly or are too far away to be seen directly, even if you stare, but you can see them out of the corner of your eye because the cells on the periphery of your retina are more sensitive to light. Maybe the truth is just like that. You can see it, but only out of the corner of your eye. That's from Jana Levin's book, Madman Dreams of Turing Machines. I just want to end with Maria Nordman's quote here. It opens one of her books, De Sculpturas, Sculptures in the City. It is not subject, it is not an object, it is not passive, it is not finished. And this book is dedicated to Margaret Fuller, Lucia Moholy, Maria Nordman, and Grace, my mom. Thanks so much for letting me share the book directly with you. It's really rewarding to kind of make space for the experience of moving through the book and reading it together. I think I can remove my spotlight. Did that work? Can you all see me? Yeah, so I don't know, we spend so much time trying to make a thing, and then we spend a lot of time trying to talk about the thing instead of letting the thing be it's, you know, have its own power. So I really wanted to share the experience of the book, since we're on Zoom and we can kind of have a one-on-one relationship with that screen. This is a project that holds lots of timelines, as you can kind of imagine, or you maybe experienced, you know, personal timelines, also, you know, personal within this kind of emotional space, but also my own physical body, myself, in my, you know, being a mother and my children growing, being a daughter and my parents aging, being a sister, my brother dying. And it also holds all of these timelines around my research. And I think one of the things that's become really important for me as a woman making work right now is to think about, how do I orbit and create mass of all of these other women's legacies? How do I kind of hold them in the studio and allow them to inform me? How do I co-author with them? Is there a way that we can kind of share space in this interstitial imagining that happens, you know, in my kind of mind map? So the book is trying to hold a lot of things, and it took about 5 years to manifest. And I think of it too as a timeline. I don't know if you can see the cover here, but this illustration specifically was drawn for me by a good friend, Nat Piper, and he's kind of creating this, what looks like a scientific or mathematical diagram, but he's mapping like my own life narrative of these 5 years to make this book happen. And so we really wanted to play up the way in which note-taking and you know, what becomes what note or what model then becomes an idea, becomes an object, becomes a piece of art. And this embrace of my process is very iterative, and things generate and kind of flow in time. I often go back and revisit. So that's why I wanted to kind of model the multiple entry points of the book, and how, as we return, we experience different things within the same object. But I'm totally interested in like how that experience landed in your body, or if you have any questions for me. I could sit here and talk all day about every gesture, or if people have questions about the materiality of the object. I know it's lunch. I don't want to take up too much time of everyone's day either. Or if you want me to just keep talking, I'm happy to do that. But please feel free to dive in, like just engage or ask a question in the chat. In terms of material in the book, there's quite a few. Oh, sorry, Max, I see that you just shared something. I just wanted to talk about the materiality really quick. Within my own practice, I'm working a lot with different photographic media, but also as I think about myself as someone who choreographs space for wonder, because wonder is radical and it can lead to new ways of knowing. And we need to imagine post-patriarchal futures. And I feel like that sense of wonder grounded in delight and joy is essential. And so if I'm thinking about light and the materiality of light, it's all about what it hits, how it hits. So we wanted the physicality of the book to kind of animate light, and also your touch, you know, you feel different material as you move through the book. But sorry, Max. You're actually answering my question right now. Oh, no. Sonia, I really appreciate the way you've taken annotation and research and presented it exquisitely. Wow, that's very kind of you. You're actually answering my question right now, so thanks. Well, thank you, Max. I know I'm putting you all on the spot because you came to see me perform, and I'm asking you to kind of give me feedback. But you know, the intimacy of a book, like what does it mean to make a book? You know, I think photographers, specifically within that medium, there's like a legacy of, you know, we make a project, it has a set of number of photographs, we package it into a book, and then that's how it moves through the world. And people access it within an exhibition or within that book. And I really wanted to make an object that doesn't feel like an end, but feels like a beginning, or feels like a well, maybe a seed, you know, something that feels very generative. And but the experience of a book, you know, you put so much, it's such an intimate thing. Like there's so much of my own mental map and my own personal experience held in this object. And then you as someone who holds it, you know, like maybe you're in bed with it or something. So like the kind of, I'm trying to tease out like if there's what's translated through this Zoom interaction in terms of that intimacy and you experiencing it with me. But SY, can you tell me more about the editing process? Yeah, you know, I was gonna pull up some dummies. I'm so sorry, they're in the other part of my studio. It was a long process. So the first iterations of this book were, there were actually no words at all. And it was a book that was like in a slipcase, and it had like 5 separate small books. There was always this interleaving, it was unbound and things kind of folded into each other. So this play of pages was always really important. And each section of that initial book that didn't have words, each had a theme about like look again or relearn or discover, all these kinds of invitations. And it was really with that, the help, I'm part of a larger artist collective, and they put in so much emotional labor with me trying to navigate how this book takes form. And through talking with them, I started making singular dummies where all of these pictures work together. And then also, how do I access all of these different ideas and these different timelines? How do I get more people to access that? And so language became something that was really important to add. I already had, you know, some bits of text within these like redacted math. These are like math dictionary pages that I redact and I use as keys oftentimes in an installation or in the work. But working with my editor, Christina Levy, was amazing. She's part of Conveyor Studios. And I sent this dummy, or not, but a dummy to Alana, blind. Matt Austin, who was in Chicago, he recommended, I told him my desire was really to work with a team of women to make this book happen. And within the photography world, that's pretty unheard of. Like there's a lot of, I don't know, there's a lot of inequity in publishing. So he recommended Alana. Alana saw this book and shared it with Christina. And so it was really this just really beautiful, serendipitous, generous, you know, like you should talk to this person kind of kept carrying it. People kept carrying it along. And Christina immediately connected with it and worked with me for about a year and really put in a lot of work, like all of the organization. I am not organized. So she came up with, you know, this idea that we need to locate each person as a section and we need to give access to a piece of that history. And then helped me even just with like the scale, the way that scale plays in and out. There's a logic of, you know, when an image is full bleed and how often that happens. Usually there's a full bleed right next to the inserts. So yeah, that part of I could not do that. That's my brain doesn't do that. So that was essential for working with the editor. Thank you for that question. Gary, do you want to ask your question or should I ask it?
Yeah, so I mean, I will just read it. So I really enjoyed the revealing and concealing aspect of the book, and it directly helped me to understand how light and vision is constructed and deconstructed. Could you continue to talk about your material choices and how does that relate to your, you know, conceptual decision of the book?
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Right, this layering, the reveal and the conceal is something that happens in in the experience of one of my installations. It's something that I'm thinking about when I'm activating light in space. And we were trying to figure out how to make that happen. And I literally just like went to the local, I think it's called DigiCopy here in Milwaukee. And I printed out every image on like some cheap vellum they had, and every image on like pink paper and gray paper and like a white. And I started making dummies with those materials. So I knew I wanted some kind of color, and I wanted to play with this transparency. And then vellum's tricky. It's really hard to run. You know, conveyor there was a lot of times it gets kind of folded and wrinkled in the press. So it was a challenging material to work with. And, you know, I showed a lot of humans this dummy, and everyone was like, wow, that's really interesting. No one's ever going to publish it. And so I just was like, okay, I have to make this happen myself, and find a team who's willing to believe in it to make that happen. But, you know, there's the logistics of having all these different materials, different sizes. In the back here, I actually it's a digital negative. So I don't know if anyone's cut it out, but you can kind of make a contact print of this, which is all of Maria Nordman's books. So I had started with the dummy and the vellum, and then I was talking with Christina, and we kept coming back to the way the vellum could work. Ilana introduced this beautiful grid, because oftentimes all of my notebooks, which you can see one here, they're like a mess, but they all have gridded paper. And so we wanted to kind of play into that materiality of my notebooks, and she added this beautiful gradient. I don't know if you can see, there's like a subtle rainbow there. And then Maria Nordman is she's a living artist, contemporary artist, 21st century artist, working, conceptual artist, working with light directly and experience. And not a lot of her work was documented because she feels that the experience of the practice is so important. And so I made an appointment to Marian Goodman Gallery in New York, where she's represented, to see all of her artist books, because I know she had a practice of artist books. And when I sat here in their library and I opened up these books, and like they too were spiral bound, and there was lots of use of vellum, and the way that like there was just this beautiful synergy in kind of what we were already exploring with the dummy, and then what this woman who I really admire and has had a long practice before me. So I wanted to kind of own that moment in the book, and like this was a last minute edition that I just printed here, and since I'm binding them myself, I added to the book. Does that help?
Thank you.
It feels so like magical to like read through the book. There's something like there's like a reading rainbow moment where I'm like, let's read together. But I don't know. I really just thank you guys for allowing me the space to do that. I've been wanting to do that with people. Are there any other questions? I mean, I guess I could tell you a little bit about how this book propels my work forward. So I actually just finished, I'm thinking about it as being a seed for new installations. And what's happening right now, and I'll just go to this section. I had a show at the Suburban, Michelle Grabner space and Brad Killam space in Milwaukee last year. And I focused on Lucia Moholy as kind of the gravitational center for that installation. And right now I'm really exploring Agnesi and the multiplicity of this curve, and how I see this curve as an eye in the way that we're talking about perception, but it also plays out as a womb in the book. And so I just did a workshop exhibition in Chicago where I was exploring, like, how do I take this section of the book and create a space where this curve becomes this three-dimensional mobile. New images are made in response to what's happening in this section of the book, and then actual pages of the book itself played out in the show. And I have an opportunity to take that further and also make it even more grounded in location. You know, Agnesi is living in the late 1700s in Milan. And so I'll be showing this work in Italy, not in Milan, in Verona. And so I'm thinking about, yeah, I'm really excited to explore her as my gravitational center in that space. Also Fonderia, which they're here. Thank you for being here. The gallery itself is titled Foundry, and they used to make bells in the space. And again, it's this beautiful serendipitous moment that this kind of bell-shaped curve that I've been obsessing about is now going to be placed in this gallery that has this legacy of round bells. So yeah, I'm just kind of using it as a compass, but also trying to generate new moves and new discoveries with it. Thank you all so much. I can't tell if you're looking at me or the book, so I don't know if I should be looking at the camera for the book, but like I said, it was edition of 300, and I think printed matter has a few potentially, and there'll be a few in Italy, and other than that, the book is sold out. So I'm also trying to just navigate, what does that mean, this thing that I've spent so much time working towards and making, that it's there in the world, but it's also gone. And so I'm thinking about how I usually start with zines, you know, so like maybe just starting to make the next chapter instead of trying to like republish this specific book or something. Hello.
All right, do we have any more questions? Sonja, these books can be found in those organizations that I mentioned, right? In the beginning?
Yeah, so the beautiful thing is that, and a goal of mine was to try to place it in as many public collections as possible. And I have a few more in my own personal inventory that I'm interested in placing in public collections. If anybody has ideas or desires, let me know. But yeah, so the book is sold out, but it's accessible in lots of libraries.
All right, cool. Any more questions? No? All right,
Thank you
well,
all.
thank you, Sonja. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. And thank you, Monira Foundation, for the support. And this recorded video will be uploaded on our website and Monira Foundation's website at some point. So please stay tuned, and I hope to see you guys all soon.
Thank you.